Today we don't have the guest. Maybe they got discouraged last time. Guest decided not to show up. I don't think it has anything to do with last time. It's just how I'm planning these preparatory meetings, which I think we only have another couple, is like I want to invite these people from outside and make use of their available times, and then I will make use of the time when they are not available for our other discussions. And I want to kind of like highlight a few things today, and I want to discuss a few things which are directly related and which I wanted to do. And so, okay. First of all, I want to give you a little glimpse of Cap Asia, right? I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, but I want to kind of like, now that you've joined, I want to give you a little glimpse. I mean, these are the four groups that four teams that have visited South Asia. This one on the top left-hand corner, they were that was Cap Asia 1. Is it okay? Okay, sure. Cap Asia 1, and that's kind of like the first project we did in Nepal, and that's kind of in the foothills of Himalayas. Actually, in that image, you can see the Himalayas, which is actually behind, and so that's the first group. And the right-hand bottom group is actually the second Cap Asia. First one was 1999, and the second one was in 2001. The main project that we did was in Mumbai, and so that's after the project with several faculty members, and you can see Best Chance. He took. I mean, I don't know. It's quite unclear, isn't it?
Sorry.
Is there any way that we can make it a little clearer? Oh, that's much better, huh? And so that's Cap Asia 2, right-hand bottom corner. That's in Mumbai, and we will actually be. Hey, Mike. We will actually be working with that school, by the way, Kamala Raja. We may not live there. I mean, that time kind of like we stayed there, and we tried to come up with a preliminary development proposal for the eastern waterfront of Mumbai. And this time we will also visit there. We'll try to visit there. One of the fascinating things that the students saw was the shipbreaking yard, which I will show you an image of later on.
Are we going to make it there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, that is the idea of Cap Asia, because like one of the things that I think you can do by yourself is to go to a place like Taj Mahal. I mean, we haven't really planned that. And you can stay back and go if you really want to go. I mean, it's not so difficult. I can give you directions. You can find directions from anybody else, because the directions are available. But you can't go to the shipbreaking yard by yourself, because you need to get permissions and so on. And we will take you there. Okay. So that's the kind of project that we do. And the first time we only had undergraduate students from CAP only. The lady who's sitting right here, she was the co-director, and that's. I mean, I did this with her. She was a landscape architecture faculty, and she went to do her PhD immediately after that, so she's no longer here. And this is Wes, when he joined. And this student actually showed up at Ball State. He did a master's here at the post-professional program in architecture. So we kind of like keep making contacts. And this is Cap Asia. So we had some graduate students this time, for the first time. And Cap Asia 3, 2003, I guess, yeah. We opened up for students from other schools. And where are they? This is Chad. He's from Berkeley. Claudia, she's from MIT. So, and we also had some graduate students from this. He's from architecture. He's from planning. So we had a kind of like very. She's from landscape architecture, JM. So we had a very good group. I mean, it was kind of like the Capaccia was kind of like becoming even better every time. So we did that time. Since I like to do a lot of work, more than I can do, we did 2 planning to learn projects. One for graduate students and one for undergraduate students. The one in for graduate students, we did a project in New Delhi because there was this woman called Renu Khosla who was doing this fabulous work. I mean, one of the things that I will do is I will also introduce you to people who are doing really exciting work, cutting edge work in that sense. So, so I wanted them to see. I wanted the students to see what Renu Khosla is doing. I mean, she's mapping the informal settlers in New Delhi. And we are not going to New Delhi, unfortunately. Maybe we can bring her if she's available to meet with us at some in some place. So she goes to these settlements and kind of like talks with them using stones, rocks, and sticks and chapati and so on. So like ask them to give some information. And it's the most amazing thing is she's using. I mean, I'm sure things have changed. When we did Capaccia 3, many people in the United States were either using GIS for like land planning, like some big stuff, and the community-based projects kind of guys, they were doing sketches by hand. There wasn't kind of like a much of a combination. This was a fabulous project for our students to see. She uses GIS. She's neither an architect nor a planner. I mean, we'll meet a lot of people, very interesting people who are neither architects nor planners. Or landscape architects.
Wait, you mean there are interesting people that aren't architects or planners?
I think we will deconstruct that view. So she's an educationist. She wanted to. The original idea was to figure out the level of education in this so-called informal settlements or self-built settlements, and she did a fabulous job. And she was kind of like ended up being one of the leading planners in New Delhi, and she was a deputy director of the National Institute of Urban Affairs. And she kind of like got out of that, and now she's running her own NGO. So the graduate students kind of like worked in 3 different settlements, 2 people each, in 3 different settlements in New Delhi, with her workers. So not with students. It's a different collaboration. She had this. Field workers. And then, I mean, this is important information because when we go there...
Okay, sorry for the interruption. Okay, Chaz.
We might...
We're testing.
We might meet some of these people, and it's important for you to know the scope, breadth and the depth of Capaccia here. And then the undergraduates did a studio planning to learn project with the School of Planning and Architecture. That's one of the 2 leading schools of planning and architecture in India. And we did a preliminary development project, same kind of schedule, like 2 weeks, and 3 weeks, in a place called Pondicherry. So our students had to fly for 2 weeks to Pondicherry to do the field work. And then we went to Sri Lanka and did a building to learn project with the university that we are going to work with, and we built some pavilions. They are all gone by now, so it's too bad we can't see them, but I'll show you some images. And the bottom left-hand corner is is from Capaccia 4, which was from
Rutgers just disconnected.
Okay, thanks. I'll keep going, right? I mean, because
Sure,
okay.
Yeah, we'll show Rutgers.
And it's also interesting because I think this is where we developed the idea called, we were asking this question, can we, what is it today? Can we participate in their processes? This question was, we asked, why do they build the way they build? Can we participate in their processes? and I think at this point it kind of like culminated in some ways. The planning to learn project we did with the Ahmedabad school, which is called SEPT school. You don't need the long name. I'll give you the long name at some point. SEPT school, which is again one of the two leading schools. Earlier we worked with SPA, and of course the Fulbright Hayes allows gives some money. So I hired the former director who retired from SPA, who was supposed to be the premier planning educator in India, to come and teach our students at SEPT. So it was kind of like really interesting. Everybody's asking, Nihal, did you bring Professor Ansari? Because they are also rival schools, like they don't go and teach in the other school. And I say, yeah, and it was fun to kind of like have Professor Ansari teach with the leading professors at SEPT, in this joint studio project. And it's one of the interesting things about that project was we worked in a place called Veravel. That was a town that we were going to come up with a preliminary planning proposal for. And as you know, we are very much interested in crossing the boundary. So during the so-called fieldwork time, I tell
You know what that is? It's
go
from
ahead. It's important to kind of like get the information because you need to do a project.
the video. The audio is usually, believe it or not, the first.
Build on it. Talk with these guys. Spend more time there. Because at the end of the day, if you're working for people or even with people, there's no point in being someplace else, in an architect's office. So I think most of the time you should be spending with them. I had this same conversation earlier with this fabulous student from MIT, Claudia Canepa. She's very good. She, we go to India. She sets up 3 meetings with the Delhi Development Authority and so on.
From our side or their side?
Extremely difficult to do.
I think it's more their side, even
Something
though.
that she learned was kind of like I was telling her. Maybe you need to spend more time in the community.
The what?
Are we meeting so they can't hear?
Because at the end of the day, we are working with them, and the communities are actual living beings. They are not objects. That you can't use science to understand these people, which we do, most of the time through quantitative analysis and various things. But you need, because they respond. Like you ask a question, they can give 5 different answers. If you're from the World Bank, they have an answer. If you're from a school, they have a different answer. If and you need to get to know these people. If you want to know these people, you need to get to know these people. There's no way that you can just go with the instrument and ask some questions and they're going to give the correct answers, and you go to the big computer and do a regression analysis and you're going to get the answer. You never. So that was something that we were struggling with, and sometimes it's hard for students because you go to a place like India, and is it safe to be there? And there are lots of things, and I understand sometimes students are reluctant to share this information with me until the field trip is finished. So I said, wow, had you told me this earlier, then I could have actually, done something about it. Or I could have come with you, or we could have done. So I think I'm saying these things so that you can share. It's normal. It's okay to be afraid of places. It's okay to be afraid of dogs, who are stray dogs, No, we do, and so on. It's okay, but we need to know. We need to discuss these things so that we can get the best out of it. And so in Ahmedabad, I'm referring to Cappadocia 4. We went for the field work, for 2 weeks in Veravel. We stayed in a kind of like a small hotel, and so we walked, there were areas that students were supposed to go. And I told them, go around, talk with them, don't just fill out forms or get information, talk with them, see, how they raise kids, how they eat, where do they go to toilet, where do they, throw garbage, look at kind of like what's going on. And we couldn't get homestays like I was able to arrange in China. Actually, the first Cappadocia also students stayed with students, Nepali students in Nepal. Since then, I haven't been able to arrange homestays. If I could, I will, and we'll see where we're going to stay in Moratuwa. And then the faculty at SEPT, which is a leading school of architecture and planning, or planning and architecture as they call it, were not ready to go back to the community because we didn't have a clean and developed proposal. So Nihal, you can't do this. We don't have a proposal. We can't develop a proposal in that shorter period. I said, yeah, I understand. I know we can't. But what's wrong in going back to people and asking, what do you think about what we think? Because we went to them and asked them about a lot of things, and we documented them, right? And they were saying, like, you come here and take all this information, you never come back. Now, if you go back to them and say, we had a little chat, you remember, two and a half weeks ago, and we thought about those things, this is what we think. And ask them. And then we went, and finally I was able to get them to agree to that. And because I had to take Indian students as well, so I told them I was thinking about how to make a presentation. People speak a different language and so on. So I just said, like, on the streets, you walk on the streets, you go to China or any place, or even Chicago, you don't really understand what everybody else is talking about, but you seem to think that you know the place. Right? So I told the students, maybe it's okay. You don't have to translate each and everything. Maybe people don't need to know everything that you said. If they have any questions, they will ask. So our students presented. It was really interesting because they presented in English, Hindi, and Gujarati. And I said, if you really want to translate the summary. Just make a summary statement in the other language. And of course, it worked all right. People didn't want to know everything. They were not really interested in. They would have gone to sleep, if he had said everything in all three languages. And then immediately after that, of course, as any mayor would do, mayor stood up. He was a stopgap mayor. Stood up and said, "Hey, these are all good proposals." I mean, we weren't, we made it, like that. And then he said, "Well, I have already started doing all these things," as any mayor would say, right? I mean, he wants to say it's good, and I'm doing it, So, and then after he sat down, the community people from the fishing community and all these people started yelling, and India is a very good place for these kind of debates, and it was almost like a riot, like people asking questions. And then at the end, one of the students told me, "Nihal, it was very unsuccessful." I asked why. He said they didn't accept our proposals. I mean, this is what we've been taught to do. We are the providers. Right? I mean, this is a word that Nabil uses actually. We are the providers. And instead of providers, we became facilitators. We became a catalyst. And is that a role that we can play? And so what happened now is all of a sudden they are fighting each other about their issues. And I told them at the beginning of Capesha, I told that we cannot solve India's problems, and that's not the point. That's not why we are going there. This is a learning project for us, and also, maybe we can help. And in this particular case, maybe it was very successful because we became a catalyst. Now they're talking about their own issues. They need to solve their. It's okay. They need to solve their issues, and now they're talking. And maybe we did a fabulous job. And it's interesting, when we came to Sri Lanka, we found a place where we could work with the tsunami hit village, where they were beginning to rebuild. And I had to work very hard to find an appropriate place because they were at various stages of development. And we found this, and we went there. And similarly, some students were asking, we are architects and planners, why are we cleaning a lagoon? That's what we're cleaning a lagoon. I'll show you some images. I hope I have. And that's somebody's computer. It's okay.
Well, that's Rutgers. We're still somebody's supposed to.
Yeah. And so at the beginning, we didn't know. We even I didn't know. I mean, I think one of the things that we do from an academic standpoint is, what if we don't know what we're going to learn? because the Western education system is organized in such a way, we have to know what we know at the end. I teach a Photoshop class. At the end, I should know what you're going to get, and I should set out the goals and objectives, and it works like a machine, basically, and at the end, you will know how to use Photoshop to the degree that I promised, competent, preliminary, whatever, right? But knowledge production, if you really want to understand something, should we be open to the idea that maybe we don't know? But at one level, I can understand learning about some things we know, right? Photoshop. Somebody else knows. I ask, Francesca, could you teach me how to do that? I know. But what if we go to a place in South Asia and say, we really don't know what's going on here? Okay. Okay. Anyway, I'll let Jerry handle that. We'll keep talking. No, it's okay. Yeah. So I think this is another approach that we take in regard to teaching and learning in Cappadocia, right? In addition to this practice where we want to cross and not to be providers. So when we went there was an architect. There was nothing for us to design. There was an architect. There was a group that collected money in the United States, in Maine. We didn't even know. It is interesting. One party, and there was a group that coordinated money. It's called the Green Movement of Sri Lanka, which is kind of like its headquarters was in Norway. And there was this architect, our friend. I mean, he has actually taken part in all 4 Cappadocias from Sri Lanka side. His name is Madhura Prematilagi. He visited Ball State as well. So, at the beginning, we who are trained as providers were a little confused, I guess, because we didn't know what to do. Like we were talking about the design, like maybe this design is not so good, maybe this, I myself, being a designer, kind of like had to talk about these things. But I think at the end, what we learned is to kind of like work in a team. That was not our job. I mean, of course, we want to comment on everybody else's stuff, but we got the legitimacy to kind of like be in this particular place and work with these people. And at some point, our students were kind of like trying to do things, we always try to be a little bit smart. So I just told them, don't be too smart, because the thing is, once we leave, we're going to leave soon. Once we leave, I think it's a very good idea that we left. Once we leave, they have to live in this place. They have to like this place. It's their place. Is it possible for us to keep working with them, with the idea that this is their place? Their building, and we are actually facilitators, catalysts, helpers in this particular way. And I think at the end, sometimes, students were not quite sure, but later on, you can see from this picture, like this was the last day. Sorry about the quality. Last day, everybody is kind of like very happy, and we couldn't leave. They didn't want us to leave, so we had to stop like in 10 places where they gave us tea. And our students didn't want to leave. Several people said, I want to stay here, I want to come back. Actually, Matt Johnson, he wants him to stay, like I had to bring him. I mean, it was an immediate idea then. So this is kind of like, I mean, I'm saying this so that partly, like when we go to South Asia, things will start clicking in, right? This is what it is. And partly, I want to raise some issues, raise some questions. We can actually question even our own education. This is from an informational PowerPoint. Yeah. So what happens is, in some ways, I want you to build your own knowledge. It's a cultural immersion, basically, and the knowledge is you construct your own knowledge. You have your own Cappadocia, and it's a guided construction of knowledge. You create your own knowledge. Like sometimes when I say this, some students, especially my second years, thinking like, well, now we can go home and do something. No, we are working together. We are helping each other. It's a guided construction of knowledge. And of course, it's facilitated by a curriculum which I've given, collaborative studios and workshops, partnering schools in South Asia, strategic field trips. We'll be making field trips, seeing some good architects work and talking with architects, planners, and so on. We even decide on accommodation. We try very hard not to stay in tourist areas, tourist districts. We try to stay in areas where regular people live. West likes to call it the lower middle class. And that's. And then the strategy is it's called project-based learning, but also we do something called planning to learn. I mean, I talked to you about the cultural center in Sanku, Mumbai, Eastern Waterfront, Pondicherry, and so on and so on. So we do these projects. The immediate objective is to do the project, but that's not the final goal, because we are actually working with these students. You will make friends. You can go to the market, and that's totally fine with them. They'll speak the local language. We want to learn by doing. We are doing that not to learn. We are not learning to plan or design or architecture or landscape architecture. We are planning to learn. We are planning to learn, and we are building to learn, and so on. So it's built on top of that, right? And also we do workshops, from place to place. And from the past, what I've seen is, again, I'm highlighting this. We are not going to solve anybody's problems. Maybe we are going to solve our problems, our own problems of how to be a good designer, how to be a good planner, how to be a good architect, because it's a learning project. But I think the important thing that we're trying to do is to kind of like view. We will be asking the question, why do they build the way they build in South Asia? But we are going to, instead of being outsiders, is it possible for us to understand why they build the way they build from their standpoint? Because one of the things that we can do is to make a classification of the world, the South Asian, African, da 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 da. So it's a kind of like an outside view, like we have these little compartments for them. And I'm rereading some of those things of a book called Learning from Gulliver, and I'll talk to you more about it. And he's kind of like saying, once you start doing such project and start thinking about it, a lot of personal information and so on come into play, and it becomes so complex. And so can we begin to understand why they build the way they build from their standpoints, their perspectives? Maybe there's no one perspective of theirs. Maybe there are many perspectives. Maybe they're fighting. Maybe they maybe they don't want it. And so can we begin to ask? And I think the important thing at the end is very large. It's not like you will know how to use Photoshop, but I think the end product will be, it will empower you and it'll humble you. And if you think these are important outcomes or educational outcomes. And so here are some images. On the left-hand side is one of those surveys that I told you about, Renu Khosla in New Delhi. So you can see his workers. This guy is a worker. Yeah, he's a worker. And you can see they use chalk to kind of like draw plans and so on. I mean, to some degree, the community-based projects people also do, to some degree. But this is kind of like very much, you can see the whole community is kind of like around, having a little community meeting, And the difference is, they're not, one of the different things is kind of like, they're not solving a problem in a weekend, right? Sorry to say this, but you can't solve problems in a weekend, which is the model that we have in our college. These guys work for a very long time, and they go there, and the community knows them. They have crossed this boundary. They know them. They talk to them. And these are kind of like very poor people who doesn't know how to read, write sometimes, and they come and sort of like participate. So you can see they draw sewer lines and various things on the ground and kind of trying to figure out. So you can see there's an interface. There's a local knowledge, and these are kind of like experts. They have a different knowledge. They talk in terms of water taps, sewerage, healthcare, and the local people don't talk in that terms. So how do you kind of like bring this together? So they have a series of maps that they produce. First they draw this on the site, and then they gradually transform them into GIS. And I think they are well aware of the fact that this map and the one on GIS are not the same, because once you translate, we bring in our own concepts into play, and we might actually displace the concepts of the local people in doing that. And on the right-hand corner, right here, we built Capaccia 3. We built 2 pavilions. We started the Building to Learn program. We called it Build, Design, Build, because we were not designing and building. We were trying to break the division between design and then build. Can we keep building and designing at the same time? You know, I mean, this was a question. And of course, sometimes we do this kind of projects. We've given them a small budget. We built 2 pavilions here, one in wood and one in mud. The mud one is on the right-hand side. You know, I might have a slide. This is the wood one, and as you can see, Wes was very much interested in pallets, you know, those days, and it has seeped into this this project. And they did a kind of like a really interesting pavilion. And this project was really, really interesting too, you know, because at the beginning, our students start building in the morning, because our students, they brave the sun, you know, like, and they are sort of like, you know, they're good, you know. And then by about 2 o'clock, they become tired because it's hot sun there. You know, first, you know, they didn't even know how to cover themselves. So you know, the Sri Lankan students showed them, you know, like, if you're going to dig in this hot sun, you first put like 4 poles and put something on top of you so that you get some shade, you know, then you can dig, you know. So little things like that, you know, to how to respond to the environment. Very small things, but I think the point is not to learn how to build that, but to begin asking questions, you know, like, how do I respond? You know, like, now I need to build, you know, how do I do this in this particular environment, you know, to be sensitive to the environment. And then when our students were building in the, you know, our students get tired at 2 o'clock, so we gone. And then in after that, the Sri Lankan students would sit down and watch this American drama, you know. And then after we leave, they'll come and build. And in the morning, my students will come and say, you know, Neha, we were building something and these guys have really ruined it because they are building something else. Okay. And because they were not working. After about 2-3 days, they had to talk to each other now, you know, I mean, because it was not my issue to, it is, the whole point of this is learning by doing, you know, and so they had to talk to each other to figure out, what are we doing? Are we doing something together, or in the morning we build something and in the evening you build something different on top of it, and in the morning we come and do something else, you know, I mean, so it was interesting, and they finally built, you know, they got together and said, let's build this pavilion. And the one on the right hand bottom is we you know, at the tsunami hit village, we started, you know, digging a foundation, and these are our students, Capaccia students. You know, again, you can see in the hot sun, we are working, but I mean that's what it was basically. There was a nice tree that everybody used to hang out when they're tired. So we've had other majors: fine arts, women's studies, urban studies. South Asia, you will like this idea of South Asia. I mean, Sri Lanka is not the best place in South Asia, but no, India. I mean, India will kind of like really disorient you right off the bat, you know, because the first time our students went Capaccia 1, I think, you know, we've been to Delhi. You know, this time also we'll go to Mumbai, but Mumbai is also another town that will not disorient you that much. You go to New Delhi, you know, like you get out of the airport, there's 100,000 people around the airport. And you can't even get out of the airport because there are too many people, you know, and I mean, I don't want to tell you any of these things. I mean, everything will be questioned, and you will begin to think. The most important thing is your thinking facility will be put to work so hard. So, and it's also an amazing region that most Americans don't know very well. You know, you will be really at an advantage knowing something about that place in the long run. it's one of the most diverse regions. India is kind of like just every state is ruled by a different political party. Not every state is different, but there are a whole range. There are communists, there are racists ruling. Like in the Mumbai region that we're going to go to. Don't call them racist. The Communist Party rules Kerala and Bengal. The Congress Party rules the Tamil Nadu. Is ruled by DMK. They do kill each other from time to time. But the thing is, but for the most part, I mean, it's a huge democracy where they tolerate. It's not like the McCarthy era. We need to get rid of all these communists. And so on, or the Soviet idea. It's an amazing place to kind of like visit. And it has all sorts of things. You can see local visions, the European visions. If you go to Chandigarh and so on, which we are not going. It's a great learning environment. And this left-hand top corner is one of the settlements that we worked in New Delhi. These were built by the people. You can see some families live upstairs. They have little ladders that they use to sort of like climb upstairs. And right-hand side is actually the more formal architect designed comparison for the same people, right?
Yeah. How is that working?
I don't know. These are interesting things to think about. Now, Mumbai is one of the largest cities in the world, probably the second or the third largest city in the world. And one day there was a naval exhibition. The navies of various countries had an exhibition. This was during Cappadocia 2. And one student asked me, we gave a little free day so that students can go and enjoy it, see what it is, because it's part of cultural experience. And one student asked me, aren't you going? I said, not today, because you will see when I'm with you, I'm probably 24/7. So that was one time that students can go. I don't need to go. And she also asked me a little bit more, why not, and so on. I said there'll be 1 million people there. I just used that term. There'll be 1 million people there, and I don't want to be there. And you can go and enjoy. It's good. And she asked me, what does 1 million look like? These are interesting discussions we'll have, and I invite all of you to have these type of discussions. And I said maybe you need to go there because I can't explain this to you. And then she came back, and we have a little newsletter to which everybody writes. She actually wrote a little piece about what is 1 million, because she went there. You would see people everywhere, and so on. And this whole story is the background to what I'm going to say. The Mumbai has kind of like 2 train lines that brings people to downtown, and on either side of the island. Mumbai was an island. If you don't know, Mumbai was colonized by the Portuguese. And that island was given as a dowry to when one of the Portuguese princesses married a English prince. That was given as dowry. That's how the English got Mumbai. There are very interesting stories about how European expansion, colonialism, and so on kind of like continue. And so one day I was on a train just to share an experience, and there wasn't many people. I got a seat probably for the first time in Mumbai, and I sat, and my butt hit the seats so hard. I just wondering like, wow, what kind of seats are these? For a fraction of a second, these thoughts, and then I looked down on the floor. They have this metal studded floors, but all the studs are gone. They're all worn out, basically. Like you can see that, and I'm just wondering, what's wrong with these guys? Why can't these guys maintain, a train or something? Within a fraction of a second, it was so clear to me, like the fact that these trains are running is a miracle because, how many people use these trains daily? This is the Churchgate station on the left-hand bottom corner. You can see how many people come out of that station on a work day. 4 million people use that train station daily, per day. 4 million people. This is much more than everybody in Chicago uses one railway station. And there are many other railway stations. while the church gets it. And of course, you will see stupas. We won't go to Taj Mahal, but on the bottom two, they are shipbreaking yard. Now I don't know how true this is because somebody else challenged. Because there's another shipbreaking yard that we went to last time in Alang. Alang is a bigger shipbreaking yard, and this is the Mumbai shipbreaking yard. And one of the interesting things is this is an encroached area. The way we would look at this from a formal and Western academic standpoint, this is an encroached area, meaning this was not assigned. Land use people didn't say this is going to be a shipbreaking yard. Somebody started that. What they do is they drive a ship very fast onto the shore. So it gets stuck in the shore. If you want to try one, we can do it in India. So there are captains. I don't know whether they are retired ship captains or whatever who are employed. Who work here. They drive this very fast, and it gets stuck in the sand. And then people walk in, and they break the ship. And they break this. This is what was challenged by somebody. They break this ship in 10 days. And I'm not sure because somebody in Alang in the other big ship breaking yard, they said maybe not. But anyway, they break this in very fast time. These are people who doesn't even wear shoes. They're barefooted. I don't even know what they have in their hands, to break this. And it's a very interesting place if you can actually enjoy this. There's a whole village of people who live here. So there's a village. This is like an industrial town, right? You can think of the industrialization. There's a whole town of people who live there. There's a marketplace where people buy stuff right there. And then on the other side, you have all these little stores, little shops, shacks, if you want to call it that way. I would encourage you not to call it that way. Where they have, these are specialized stores. You can buy a ship radio. Like there are radios from ships sold in one. In the other one, these are all different parts that come out of ships. They are sold in these different stores. Right? You might wonder, I was wondering, who the hell is going to buy any of these things? I really don't know. If there is a store, there must be some business, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't be running this. And maybe it's not so good because they don't have a glitzy store, so maybe they don't make a huge profit.
The market for used ship radios is not huge.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A lot of people, India, first of all, India has over 1 billion people, number one. And Mumbai has more than 16 million people, and many people in India still use radios. I don't know whether I'm just putting some facts around to see whether it makes any sense for us to even think that maybe there is a place. But these are kind of like fenced out and so on and so on. And we took students down there, and students were saying, "Hey, this is very bad. There's a lot of junk here, and there's a lot of oil spilling here and so on." It's interesting for us to go and be realistic. Who produces these things? It's the people who care about what happens to these things. Mm-hmm. Who produces airplanes? Who produces ships? Who produces all these big things? And what are their plans to kind of dismantle these things? The fact that the Indians and the Chinese are taking care of these things is a bad thing, good thing? I'm not passing any value here. I'm just these are important, interesting questions to think about. And on the right-hand top corner, we may go there. That's Mihintale. That's where Buddhism began in Sri Lanka. That's where a king became a Buddhist, in 2,500 years ago. Was that?
Osaka?
No, Ashoka was Indian. Ashoka, and this is called Mahinda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. By the way, Ashley speaks in Sinhala. She's started very fast. She knows how to count in Sinhala. Maybe we can talk. We can take a. What's the time now? Maybe we can take a short break and speak in Sinhala a little bit.
Well, there's two ethnic groups. In
Tell me around 11 or maybe after 11.
Buddhists, and they're ethnically not Sinhalese, and then there's a 30, minority. They're Tamils, and they come from India,
Right.
and they speak Tamil, and they're Muslim, mostly.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's where Buddhism began. And on the the right hand picture is that where Mahinda lived. This is actually Mahinda was Asoka's son.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Asoka's son who came to Sri Lanka, and these are very interesting stories. Like first of all, although Buddhism began in India, it's not very important in India. It's Sri Lanka is supposed to be the main Buddhist country in the world. For Theravadins.
It's got the Temple of the Tooth and Candy.
Temple of the Tooth in Kandy, Tooth Relic of Buddha, which we will see. And Buddhism was first written down. It was an oral thing. It was written down in Sri Lanka also. It's called in a place called Aluvihare. And all the disciplinary codes were written down. They are the original disciplinary codes are in Sri Lanka. And in the 3rd century, a Buddhist monk. There's this famous Buddhist monk who came from China to kind of like Sri Lanka to kind of like learn about the Buddhist codes, and also visited where the Buddha lived and so on in the northeastern part of India. That's where he lived. Now, one of the I can't remember before Alexander or after Alexander, Asoka he was a big emperor on the northern part of India. He kind of like he had a huge empire, and people were criticizing him for kind of like you can't build empires without killing people. That's what he did. And some people say his wife was a Buddhist. I'm not quite sure, the queen. But anyway, he was convinced, like you shouldn't give up this bad karma. And so he became a Buddhist, and finally his son and daughter became monks, basically, ordained. So his son Mahinda came to Sri Lanka. He's the one who brought Buddhism to Sri Lanka. And Sri Lankans believe that the Buddha, before he died, before he passed away, told that Sri Lanka is where the Buddhism is going to continue. And so I don't know about the truth value of these things. And then Mahinda came and sort of like he preached Buddhism to the king, and king became a Buddhist, and Mahinda actually lived his rest of his life. Probably Asoka's daughter also kind of like probably came to Sri Lanka. But anyway, this is where he preached. That rock where Vesanaya is standing up there. That's where Mahinda preached to the king. And it was interesting, if you're interested in, I'll tell you more about it. Mahinda came and first wanted to know whether the king can understand what he's talking about, and so because king was gaming, and like he was kind of like going after deer, deer hunting in that place. So he asked the king, he showed a mango tree and asked, what is that, and king said, that's a mango tree. And then he asked, are there other mango trees other than this tree, this mango tree? He said, yes. And then he said, are there other mango trees other than the other mango trees that you talked about? And the king said, yes. Which one? What are they? Then said, this one. You understand the logic? Yeah. So then he asked several questions like this to figure out whether he can understand. Then he sat on this rock and sort of like talked to the king about Buddhism, and king became Buddhist. It's an interesting story. And the one on the left-hand side is a 3rd century rock fortress. It's supposed to be the oldest living garden in Asia, right? Sri Lanka was known for like irrigation systems. Sri Lanka had very sophisticated irrigation systems 2,500 years ago, and still, some engineering equipment can't match that, because they had even slopes in canals like 1 inch per mile. The maximum you can measure, I think the best you can measure using the survey equipment is 8 centimeters per kilometer or something like that. So which is kind of like people still think it's marvelous stuff. And here they also use that, but again, this is a rock fortress. The king lived, king did some bad thing. He killed his father, so he had to hide. So he his father was a king, and then killed and became the king, and he built this rock fortress for defense. And then his brother eventually kind of like took over power and sort of like took the capital back. But this is really interesting because this is untouched evidence from a long time ago. Because all the other places are actually used and reused and remodeled. So we'll go here and you will climb up. It's quite interesting. It's called the Sigiri. It's a lion rock that placed on the left hand bottom corner where you enter. Apparently there was a big lion and you enter through the mouth. And South Asia, has very diverse environments. And the right hand bottom corner is we are not going there. It's Jaipur, where everything happens. Like there are cows, there's vegetables, everything happens on the street. And it's a very, very lively place if you want to think about it that way. And right hand top corner is from Sri Lanka actually. And you will be able to see, we are not going to these specific places, but you should be able to see marvelous Western type of designs and colonial designs. In Colombo, you will see colonial parliament, Georgian type of parliament houses and so on. And that property newspaper is from Mumbai. You can see it's a excuse me. And yeah, so it's the newspaper is from Mumbai, and the left-hand bottom corner is Colombo, that was transformed into a global business district. And right hand bottom corner is the Parliament House that was right hand bottom corner is the Parliament House that was designed by Jeffrey Bauer. Just check whether this is Kim or somebody. Yeah, let me can. Huh? Okay. Let me see. So actually, in addition to learning new things, I think one of the things that we want to do is to ask questions about who we are and what we know. We might have different views about what we know, and again, it's a very diverse place. I'm going to show you some other examples of diversity because that might be important. We'll take a short break and talk in singular and so on and do it. But before that, I want to show a few more slides. You can see the top left-hand corner is a snake charmer, and that's part of the story. And in the middle is Bangkok. We won't be staying in Bangkok, but it's another diverse place. The left-hand bottom corner is in Hong Kong. It's called a lot of architects call this the Norman Foster Building. It's the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation headquarters. But the most amazing thing for me is, the building itself is interesting, but the fact that people, these are all Filipino maids, on a Sunday morning, they're gathering there. And they totally occupy this space. So it's interesting for me, as much as we being authors of space, it's interesting to see how people create space. Now, Norman Foster had no clue that, of anything of this sort. And now the Filipino maids, there's a huge group of maids who are from the Philippines working in Hong Kong. They create their own public space. And you can see on the right-hand side, it's one of the Indian cities. Right-hand, the top right-hand corner is also a design by Laurie Baker. Some architect that you might want to sort of check out. And he did very environmentally friendly buildings. So we won't visit him, but we will be visiting some Jeffrey Bauer buildings. Here's just forget about the schedule there, but a few more images. This is the first Cap Asian, I greet in New Delhi, because I went to New Delhi a little bit before. I usually try to sort of like get ahead using that opportunity. And you can see all the people out there. You know, like I mean, you don't even know how to get out of that airport. And the one below that is the first project in Nepal. You can see our students, two of our students. Where is my cursor? Yeah, Adam. He was the funniest guy we've had on Cap Asia, who kept everybody up all the time. And Colin Drake, who was one of the brightest students from architecture. And the others are Nepali students. They are, you know, they are presenting their project. This is Kalamatiya. You know, this is like on the left hand, Hambantota. Hambantota you can see on this map. If I can get the cursor to run, yeah. This is where it is, and our site was around here, right next to it. But this is Hambantota, where, you know, immediately after the tsunami, people are in tents. And on the left-hand side, people enjoy, you know, like they're wearing saris and, you know, local costumes and so on. On the right-hand side, it's a rural. Actually, it's on the Capish Ball State website, I think. It was here, I think. That's you and Brian. Yeah. In this village. So this is a rural house. We'll see rural houses. And on the left-hand side, you know, during the Building to Learn project in Sri Lanka, West and I on that side with the Sri Lankan faculty member discussing how to come to terms with. I told you Sri Lankans would build, and then the Americans would build. You know, like now we are together trying to kind of like take some paper and sort of like trying to figure out how can they work together. You know, what are they really building together? You know, is there anything that they can do together? And I used to start off with a conference. Maybe we can do it this time. The right-hand bottom corner is it's a conference in New Delhi we took part in called City One. So, you know, when you go to South Asia, it's also kind of like it's a different environment. And like, I mean, maybe we need a little injection to kind of like say, like, oh, we are here to study.
I mean, there is the conference that's going to be at Kandalama.
Yeah, Kandalama.
Yeah, in February.
And West is giving a paper. We're going to see West give a paper in South Asia.
Tim Gray, hopefully.
Tim Gray, yeah.
It's an international conference of design educators, actually, so it should be interesting to all of us at this amazing place.
Yeah, that's a Jeffrey Bauer designed hotel that we're going. And on the right-hand top corner is like, that's Capacia 2 students. We usually had breakfast, you know, in the morning. We stayed in that guest house. Our classes were held at the breakfast table. You know, we had breakfast and then we continued to discuss for a few hours. We had the same breakfast every morning, right? and the bottom is the lady in a sari is Renu Khosla, who I talked to you about. She's this amazing lady who was documenting this self-builders, and those are the graduate students. You know, after the project, you know, she invited us for dinner at her place. So we were sitting on the floor at her house and having a chat. On the left-hand side is a class. You know, like we have classes in various places. This is in Sept. You know, and in the mornings we meet and we had a class. And Michael knows about these classes. And we also do workshops, and we are going to do 2 workshops this time. But this is like, we did a mud and patch workshop once, Capacia 3, I think. So these are local people who are showing how they build using leaves to us. And it's interesting, they organized this little workshop where our students were allowed to kind of like play around with them and sort of build those.
Sorry, in Bangkok, right?
Bangkok, right, yeah, thanks. And on the right-hand top corner, in Pondicherry, our students were taking traffic counts. This is Tony Piascovi, Capacia 2, I guess, right? No, Capacia 3, yes, Capacia 3. And on the right-hand bottom corner, also Cappadocia 3, where we were, that's in Delhi neighborhood, you know, Tony Noble is on, oh. Tony Noble is sitting there, chat, you know, and everybody's kind of like around that. Actually, I see myself as well there. And we also do formal presentations, formal conversations. On the left-hand side, Renu Khosla is sitting right at the corner, and we might actually do a presentation to the United Nations, or we might even meet the president of the president of Sri Lanka while we're there, and so on. So who knows? We visit very interesting places. On the left-hand top corner it's an architect design complex. We visited in India. On the left-hand bottom corner, is a Buddhist temple that we visited in Bangkok. You know, where the monk talked to us about Buddhism. On the right-hand top is a old or ancient Buddhist temple built in the landscapes, into the landscape, and that's where that Basnaika, one of our colleagues there, gets his inspiration from. He's a fabulous architect. We'll see his work. And right-hand bottom is a school visit. This lady in Bangkok is explaining the school to us. So some of the things that we'll be doing. And we try to find low-key accommodation so that we can experience. On the left-hand side is that, you know, you saw we were having breakfast, and that's in that building. And as soon as you get out of that building, it's the bottom image shows what you see. You know, you just go walk across the street and buy whatever you want, and it's a regular place. On the right hand, it's the apartment complexes that we stayed in Ahmedabad last time. Left-hand top, right-hand top is kind of like students are making developing some final proposals with the locals in New Delhi, and left-hand side is where they are presenting their project to the people. I mean, this is something that we need to think about. You know, how do you present a project to the people? Are you going to use the same models and so on? I mean, is that how we talk with people? You know, or how else? And below that, on the left-hand side, is at the end, you know, like it's all the chairs and deans of School of Planning and Architecture, and on the bottom, Claudia, she was trying to make a presentation, and of course the technology didn't work. This is in National Institute of Urban Affairs. It's a formal presentation, and those guys who are sitting there right in front of Claudia, World Bank experts, you know, and then. She was quite smart. She said, "I'm going to bring the computer here, and I'm going to kind of like make the presentation here." So and everybody's standing around the computer, and she's showing her images. And the right-hand side is kind of like the Veravel, you know, like it was a fishing community that we visited. Left-hand top is the mud house that we built, the mud pavilion. Left-hand bottom, West and I are talking with two Sri Lankan faculty. The right-hand side of that image is Basnaga, whose work we'll see, and Varuna is a younger architect who's kind of like doing very interesting work as well. The other thing is, we also, when we visit that part of the world, we also want to think about the ways in which they think. This is Gandhi. I mean, somebody who really challenged the idea of means and ends. Is this, you know, if you achieve something great, like George Bush is trying to achieve, is it justified to kill people or deprive people of their freedoms? And Gandhi said, no, it really doesn't matter what you achieve, you can't kill anybody. You know, I mean, this is a different idea. And the bottom, you know, the right-hand side is Gandhi Ashram in Ahmedabad. We may not visit that one. On the left-hand bottom and the you know bottom middle, that's the house of Ho Chi Minh. You know, he defeated the United States from that little building. You know, and it's interesting to kind of like ask some good questions about these places. You know, I mean, do you really need a big mansion to kind of like do things, or what? You know, and how do they think? And the left-hand side are two buildings by Charles Korab. Actually, all three except for the top right-hand by Charles Korab, and that's the top right hand is by Doshi. And we'll be seeing architecture of various well-known architects as well. And we'll visit current architecture. I showed Basnagar, his work is on the right-hand top. The two bottom ones are Jeffrey Bawa's. And very interesting to see, most of the time when Jeffrey Bawa's architecture is shown, you hardly see a building. He never gets out of the building and gives an external view of the building. This is what it looks like. It's all about space and spatial quality. What you see from the building. What are the views? That kind of stuff. And top left-hand corner is Bundit. He's in, we're not visiting that, but we'll visit the bottom one probably. The Bundit, he's an architect in Bangkok. He has created he has inspired, he's gotten some inspiration from traditional architecture and created the modernist structure. And we visited that, and he's talking to our Capesha 3 students. And we'll meet very interesting people, a Buddhist monk on the left top corner. He's in Bangkok, and on the left-hand bottom is somebody who worked with Le Corbusier on the Chandigarh project. We are not meeting him, but we'll meet people like that. Top right-hand is the architect, the project architect for the Petronas Towers, who coordinated the construction and design. On the bottom right-hand is the mayor of Veravel, who organized that fabulous meeting I told you, where people started yelling at each other. And this is the housing that we began. I mean, we helped begin building in the tsunami hit village. You will see this. There are a lot more trees and very, it's very much more nicer than this at this point. But there's an enormous impact. People have talked about, Chad Fallon. After he came back, he wrote an email message to everybody saying, I come back to Los Angeles, nothing has really changed here. Everything looks the same. But I have changed, so everything seems so different here. And we had participants who received thesis awards. Actually, the Capesha 2 student, Capesha 3 student, Claudia, she received a national award for a thesis. And people are doing, this is Claudia. And Chun started, we will be meeting him. He did his degree in the post-professional master's program in architecture. He's now a faculty member at King Mongkut University of Technology, and hopefully he gets to coordinate a workshop. And people did very exciting work. I mean, this is Brad McKinney. He was inspired by the self-builders, and he was asking the question, can self-builders exist in the United States? And of course there are many ways to look at it. Maybe there are self-builders in the United States to begin with, and we have seen actually encroached, entire settlements on the river. What's the river? Ohio River, right? And so on. And this is Brad McKinney, who is actually teaching in Anderson, and graphic artist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Communications.
And he's building his studio under the bridge in Anderson. You can see on the left hand, this is his studio, and he can pull it down and start working. And maybe it's still there. Maybe we can take a visit and see. Maybe nobody has really noticed. So this is exactly what the self-builders do. They build in places that nobody notices, and he built this under a bridge in Anderson. So I'm not going to bore you with all this. I mean, people have written fabulous journal entries coming back. And besides, it's fun, and you get to run with children, which, what's her name? Lou is doing on the left-hand bottom, because when we went to the tsunami hit village, we saw children were totally neglected because parents have to take care of houses and signing forms, trying to figure out, to rebuild life. So we get to play with kids, and that was a part of our thing, and then on the right-hand top is kind of like trying to figure out, after working for several days without any coordination, trying to figure out how to build something together between, the American students and Sri Lankan students.
And that's Chad, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's Chad on the right-hand side there with the pen, sort of at the sketchbook.
Yeah.
Person from Berkeley who said nothing's changed, but he's changed, so everything's changed.
Yeah.
That's Chad.
Yeah, and Lou was from DePaul. She's women's studies major, the one on the left-hand bottom. Yeah, and this on the left-hand side, we were creating this children's play environment, in Palamatia. You need to know this name, I think, the village. And on the right-hand side, we were some of our students cleaning up the lagoon and playing volleyball in the temporary settlement.
When we were just trying to find this project to work on in Sri Lanka, the person who found it for us, Madhura Prematalika, the architect, I'm sure you'll get to meet him. It was really interesting. He said, well, they need new houses, but they also need, the children need somebody to play with, and we need to help them clean up the mess of what used to be their village in the lagoon. That's in the background of that top image. And they might need some help fixing their fishing boats. So it's even interesting for me as a beginning point to see that the architecture was really just part of a much larger bunch of energy that we could participate in there and learn from, actually. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. And in a different way, we were not building houses. Building houses is a part of the thing. And this is what planners and architects forget. Planning and architecture are not the end. It's not we achieve planning and we achieve buildings. We build for something else. We plan for something else, and we totally forget that. And we were doing a community building exercise. We were playing, we were building, we were doing all sorts of things. Building was an important part where we could contribute much more than probably playing, because they were probably better players than us. But we were. It was a part of.
As important as anything, our role there is probably to be a distraction.
Yeah.
Simultaneously bringing focus to and a whole bunch of energy to a construction project. We could play with the kids. We could do a lot of really good work there.
Somebody's. Okay. Any questions? Anything that you want to discuss? Let me see what this is about. Somebody's really wanting to.
Perkins, do you have your passport yet?
Ashley, you want to start some similar?
Okay.
Okay.
I don't talk about it.
Okay.
I need to.
I guess, do you guys
I
want to
really
learn
need
some?
to go and
Yeah.
get my.
I don't know very much, but I guess I can offer what I do know. And currently online, there's a software for $20 only. It's called Talk Now Singala, and it's great. But you have to really be a self-starter. It's not like Rosetta Stone where it's just,
Rosetta Stone is not going to teach you what you need either. It's going to teach you how to say the woman points at something with the finger of her left hand.
Exactly.
Which is not helpful.
Yeah, this stuff is really like baby Singala, you know what I mean? Like it starts you off with like your numbers, your colors, just basic stuff to get around, because as I figure, you'll learn the idiomatic phrases when you get there kind of thing, and that's kind of what's important. Like Nihal was telling me, you can get away by saying almost any foreign word, like, in Japanese you can say, oh, Yohana-san, and that's okay. And he was saying in Singala there's the equivalent where you can point to any object and say it in English and then add a suffix to it and you're good. So I guess to count in Singala, to say 0, you say bindua. And then 1 is ikka. And then 2 is dikka.
Wait,
And 3, oh, you're searching.
slow down.
Okay, sorry.
2,
2 is dikka.
dikka.
The D. Almost sounds like, and the D's sometimes kind of almost sound like V's. And I have these two people on the bottom, sides of my screen when I'm learning this, and the woman will say it one way and the guy will say it another way. And apparently it's really hard to like hear the subtleties, but yeah.
In a lot of the Dravidian languages, which is the language family of most of the Indian subcontinent, and I believe Sinhala as well, there's a difference between dental D's and T's, which are pronounced with your tongue right up at the front of your mouth, and what they call, or what linguists call retroflex, which is when you really roll your tongue back into your mouth. And it's closer to the kind of D's and T's that we say. Like they'll hear our D's and T's as retroflex, but it's actually a little bit further back in the mouth. So it's like the or the.
Yeah.
If you can hear that difference at all.
And I'll get later into the numbers, and you'll see like that with like some vowel sounds too. But and then Duna is 3. Okay. And then Hatara is 4. And I'm compiling this stuff myself, so I might just make some handouts or something. And because all the guides I've found so far, they just use the Sinhala letters, and honestly, I know I don't have time to learn, even though it's a phonetic language, to do all this stuff. So anyway, and then 5 is Baha.
E?
Yeah, Baha. Okay. And then 6 is Haya.
Haya?
Haya. Seven is Hata. Hata. Mm-hmm. 8 is my favorite letter to say. It's Atta.
Ata?
Uh-huh. Atta. And then the software taught me to say 9 Navoye, but he said it's better to say Namoe, like just kind of run it together, just go with it.
Name.
Name. And then 10 is the Haya. I mean, that's all as far as we got.
Eka, Deka, Tuna, Hatra, Paha, Haya, Hata, Name, Dahaya. Wes knows something, right?
I know none, basically.
Come on, you picked up something immediately.
I can't even say the name of Basmayaka without saying he's the devil, actually. Either it's his name or he's the devil, one or the other, so he always laughs about that one. It's a very difficult
in
language.
Sinhala, it's pronounced Basnayaka. And Basnayaka would be a leader, Basnayaka. And the way a lot of Americans pronounce would be Basnayaka. Yaka would be a devil. So, so it's the Basna devil. So when he was here, it was funny. He was saying, why is everybody calling me devil?
Is there any tone in Sinhala, or is it just
No, it's a phonetic language. If you can actually pronounce, one of the biggest mistakes that the Americans do is asking for spellings. I personally think you should never ask for spellings. If you can't understand something, don't ask for spellings. Because the time you ask for spellings, you're going to mispronounce it. I can guarantee 99% of the time. Because the way in which the Americans pronounce whatever they've written and way in which the other people pronounce whatever they've written are two different things. Even the French don't pronounce the same way as Americans, nor does the British.
Yeah.
So writing is probably the worst way to understand another language. You have to begin to understand it I learned French, and the guy who taught me French taught French in French. He said, don't talk in English or Sinhala in this time. So, because he said, there's no way that you can understand.
You can't explain another language.
Yeah. and you can to a certain degree, like explain, describe, whatever. But it's a bad one because yeah, because it's in Sinhalese it's a phonetic language. They'll say a. I mean, in English, a could be a or a, or I mean, there are many different ways to. So in Sinhala, if you write something, she also has to write. So or the alphabet.
No, I didn't.
To read.
No, not at all. I said that I was avoiding that because
you were avoiding that.
I wanted
okay.
just to learn the basics. That's how I learned German, and that's kind of like where I started was, well, how did I learn the other languages I know? Well, I started just by ear, and then the rest came, and then.
From an outsider point of view, Sinhala is really a useless language to learn. From an outsider standpoint, right? However, it's so close. It's so close to a lot of other languages. Like eka, deka, tuna. In Sanskrit, it would be ek, dvi, three. It's exactly. So ek, do, teen. So they are very close in many ways. Once you know one language, you can actually move to other languages in that region, which includes the Indonesian actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which includes the Indonesian. So they are all in the same language family. Yeah.
For me, I personally started to learn it because I knew that if the people we were working with speak English and we don't speak any of their language, then it's like they can enter our world, but we can't enter theirs. And it's kind of like to help, hey, I'm trying to. Just to let you know, you're not doing all the work, and we know that we're on your home turf, and so that's why I felt that was important.
It's fabulous. Great. I mean, this is exactly what we want to do. And Wes, you should say yes in Sinhala.
Stop, I can't even remember how to say it.
Yes?
I can't remember.
Okay.
It's been years, sorry.
Oh.
Stop embarrassing me here.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, I know how to say it. No, that's not yes.
Yes.
Yes, it
No,
is.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
What is it?
Oh. And then you say no, nay, or nay.
Okay, good. Thanks for telling us that, because I would say yes all the time.
So like if you're like somebody, I don't know, I was going through my head the scenario where somebody's offering something and you're trying to figure it out and like, oh, okay, wait, no, you stop it.
O would be yes, but a lot of people say that's kind of like it's a.
It's more of a grunt. That's why I didn't even know what you were talking about. Oh.
Well, it's like in German, it's like we don't always say ja, we say yeah.
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 Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
And no would be actually na in Sinhala, na.
Ne?
Na. If you say nay, it would be Hindi,
Oh.
Na, yeah. Na. I mean, yeah. Na.
What language will we be running into in Bombay?
Hindi is fine, but there are also Marathis, yeah. But Mumbai is kind of like a very cosmopolitan place. A lot of people should speak Hindi. Now I say should speak, and we met people who didn't speak Hindi or anything like that. In the guy who was scaling, I don't even know where he's from. I don't think the Hindi people can even talk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends on what circles of people you're
It has a huge migrant population. I mean, it's a big place.
What did I hear? Like 600 Hindi dialects throughout the country?
Yeah.
So, I mean, so there's a lot of people, and it's a big place.
But that could be to your advantage because, like, in Indonesian, there's so many, like, dialects, too, that no matter how you pronounce it, you'll be understood by somebody,
Or by no one.
And I hope it's a correct thing that they understand. So how do you greet somebody when you meet someone?
I haven't gotten that far.
Teach us.
I,
Tell us how to say it.
yeah, teach us.
You could say Kohomada. Kohomada would be how are you? It could be very European. Maybe people didn't say that in that way earlier, before British colonization. However, the formal greeting is called Ayubowan. 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 Ayubowan would be, Ayu is life, like it's almost long lived. That's the greeting. People would meet other people and say, may you live long, or live,
You can greet in Thai.
Yeah.
But it's easy to say Sawati Ka. Or if you're a guy, you say Sawati Ka.
Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys always have to finish with cup, and women cup. And these are all interesting things, because it's not the person, like in English we talked about other people like he, she, but in Thai, if I'm a woman, I would say Swadika, and if I'm a man, I would say Swadika.
So
it really
depends
doesn't
on your
matter who you're talking to. Huh?
Okay. It's not like in Arabic where you address the person by their gender, you address the person by your gender.
Right.
Okay.
It's funny that way.
So then you get to choose the gender,
Could be embarrassing.
which might not be available in when other people decide.
I have to finish it. I need help. Yeah.
And again, thank you. Stuti. 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 Now I told Ashley, these are not really Kohomada and Stuti. I mean, Kohomada might be a little bit more used. Stuti is not very commonly used. I mean, people expect other people to be nice.
It's like, I was practicing the Sinhala on Nihal the other day, and he was like, there's no need for really all these formalities, because the formality is kind of perceived as like distancing yourself from the person. You should really bring people into you and not be afraid to be intimate with them or whatever, it's...
Yeah, if somebody says Ayubowan, I mean, there's a distance. If somebody says Stuti, I mean, there's some distance, not as that. Because like regular people, they don't sort of like say Ayubowan and so on. So going back to formalities, if you have any questions about your tickets and so on, you need to tell me ASAP, because we have to buy tickets from, the guy is going to issue tickets from tomorrow, because we need to buy from day after tomorrow. These are very interesting things, like you don't need to get into this world, because it has nothing to do with, nobody's kind of like telling us that we need to buy tickets by tomorrow or day after. It's just, if you want to get this rate, we have to do it because we have a reservation, confirmed reservation. It gets cancelled by Wednesday. If it gets cancelled, then he has to get the reservation. If he gets a reservation on a different class, there are many classes in economy class, and then the fare may go up. So it's a complex world that we don't necessarily need to get into. Nobody's forcing us. We can pay a little bit more and sort of like get tickets later, but to get this fare, I need to buy tickets this week. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I need, if you have not given your first check, I need that check, and if you have not given me the permission to enroll form, you need to give that like now, okay.
I need help to finish filling
No,
out.
I think you need to give the personal information. If you don't have the course information, we'll put some course information.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Because you can always change the classes that you register for. I mean,
Okay.
it's not an issue, but you should be on the system. That's what this form does. So, yeah.
A question about the visa. You said that, are we taking care of that? Do we need to personally get the visa, or?
What we are trying to do is we are trying to thanks. we are trying to apply for the Indian visa together
Okay.
if the passports are available. I think we will collect all the passports next week, and we will also collect.
You need
Yeah,
these?
she'll take. She can
Okay.
take. And I will send you information how to fill out this form. I'll send you where to download the form and how to fill out the form. You need to fill out, and it requires some sort of a check that should go with that.
So
And the passport. I mean, I want all to be submitted by next Monday. Let's say next
How
Monday.
long do you think it's going to take my passport to get renewed? Because mine
So Joanna is doing
mine,
that.
it took mine like 3 weeks. It really isn't.
renewal's not the issue. It's getting a new one. It's a real big one.
Well,
Right.
I was actually like getting a new one because I got mine before I was 16, so
Oh.
it's like getting a new one, and that
Oh.
only took 3 weeks.
Okay.
You already got it.
Yeah, it came like on Friday or something, and I didn't know.
So,
It shouldn't take very long.
And you can expedite it if you're worried about it getting here in time, but that's like another $30 or something.
I just don't know how long it takes to renew. So
They say 3
Renewal
to
should
6
be quite
weeks.
quick, right?
They said
Should
3 to
be.
6 weeks, but they've been having delays, so I don't actually
On and off,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Because mine expires in July of next year. So you want it current for 8 months after
6 months. Yeah.
6 months. So yeah.
So that's what we'll do. We'll apply for the Indian visa. Kind of like I'll put them in the same envelope, but the Indians are very fussy in regard to you have to apply for your own. But what I'm trying to do is I'll put with a cover letter, saying this group, and we can't play around with we just say we're going on architectural tourism. We're going to see some places, because otherwise it's going to be a very long process, and the Indian visa can take years, and so we're not going to play around with that. We're just going to say, and we are also going for 2 weeks anyway, like officially. And we will apply for single entry, and if you want to apply for multiple entry, if you want to go back, and then we need to double check to see what it is. And I mean, they're pretty lax about it. I mean, it's only if you say you're going to an area where poor people lives in India to kind of like study or something, you can almost know that. I mean, I can almost guarantee they will never give you the visa. So
Right.
I had
You want to see what's wrong with your country.
yeah one of the students, one of the Capisha students, Ryan Smith, he got a Fulbright student award. He couldn't get his visa on time to go. So he got a Fulbright, but he couldn't do it because the Indian embassy didn't give a visa.
He was proposing to go back and work in the same informal settlement. Where he
Yeah,
was
that we
for a
worked
year.
in. Yeah.
I guess if me and Mona would want to stay longer, and then you told us that if we buy tickets through you, when do we have to let you know exactly?
I think if it's a part of this ticket,
Okay.
then he can ask for a rate.
Okay.
And so that's kind of like now. But the dates can change. Actually, the what you cannot change is the departure date. If you change the departure date, there's a penalty. But for the other ones, but within, the ticket is going to be a 4-month ticket. I mean, if you need anything else, you need to let me know. Yeah.
Well, we wanted to get like
Yeah.
another week.
In India?
Yeah, we wanted to go to China.
I might just have to meet you there.
So do you want to go to Chennai or Delhi or both?
Both. Not
Like, I
really
mean-
the
Do you want to fly from Chennai to Delhi, or
We looked at trains actually.
it's a long ride though?
Yeah,
Day and a half,
but we
2 days.
if we want to see the country and
Yeah.
That's
you
like
know,
the best
Yeah.
way to do it.
Right. So,
We've taken a train from Delhi to Mumbai. That was just one overnight. That's 1/2 day. I mean,
Day and a half. Like, it take us like 14 hours.
40, maybe 40. Yeah, but yours will probably take 30 some hours. I
After
think.
the flight over there, I don't think you'll be too phased by a 14-hour flight or train.
Yeah.
God, I don't think you'll be too jazzed about it.
yeah, somehow I don't think that the long flight makes 30 hours in a train. More.
Yeah. Well, you're so shell-shocked, you might as well just keep it going.
That's kind of my feeling.
Yeah.
You should start noting down at which station did they load the chicken and.
Right.
Michal, I have a question. You
Yeah.
sent out this email about visiting New Orleans, and were you talking about the end of this semester?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
It's during Christmas break though, right?
Yeah.
Christmas break, but we want to go as early as possible.
Right.
So as soon as you are out of, once you finish your exams, is it possible that we go down to New Orleans before you head back home?
I
No?
think it's going to be a really crunch.
Okay.
Yeah, especially I really want
it's
to.
fine for me. It's close to home.
I don't know, like I don't. It's okay. I guess my parents' concern was, is it mandatory?
No.
Because I want to go
Mandatory with this.
as I said with I'm committed and everything. It's just I haven't seen really my parents in like 4 years really, like for a good stretch of time.
Okay, sure.
So
How about you, Mike?
Sounds like a possibility.
Okay. Like around the 14th, 13th.
Of December.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. Should be okay.
Let me know
Yeah, I'll
when
let you
the
know
earliest
what
that
time
you
it's
can
getting
go.
closer.
You have to head back?
Finals until Thursday night, but
Yeah. Then you can go, right? I mean, you send me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
I haven't
And you?
Anytime you want to go to New Orleans, I'm there. I'll show you around.
I think Heidi can go on the 15th. So we lost the.
Rutgers disconnect, they were having problems with their test. I'm
Okay.
not sure what
Are they online?
They went to the
No.
building to check.
Okay.
they're doing. There was a little bit of problem. Our
What?
student was-
no,
Okay.
it's striped hyena.
How about you, Josh?
You will learn of my hyena
Oh.
fetish.
I might go anytime.
That's very
You
nice.
can go at any time. I think. How about you guys?
I think it's a possibility.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Because it seems like some people are busy till the 14th. So.
I have to move out of my apartment, so that might be kind of a problem, but I don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah, the same situation.
Yeah,
I have
it's pretty
to.
annoying.
So, I mean, like, if you let us know for sure, then we could probably, like, arrange things.
Yeah.
Go around it.
Mm-hmm.
be
we
looking
we
at
will be going if that's what you want to know. And roughly, I think it's going to be about the 14th or the 15th. I mean, that's.
Okay, and
That's
until-
what is boiling
until
up.
when?
I would imagine 3 days, 4 days, miss.
Would we be driving down?
Yeah, because it'll take some time to drive.
So back
We can
by
spend
like
about
Like a
14th,
14-hour
maybe a
drive.
full day.
18th, 19th,
I know how long.
20th.
Yeah, 7. Yeah, it won't go till the 20th. No, we want to come back soon.
Maybe that's the same thing that should happen here.
You should be able to
I
move
wouldn't
that
be
out.
driving
Yeah.
now, that's the difference.
I mean, if that would be
Driving by myself.
I also unrelated to what they're talking about, but
We can fly from New Orleans to. You going to Germany?
yeah, I'm just gonna go to Germany then.
You already bought tickets?
Well, it's saving us $600 if we go in the time slot that would
Yeah.
overlap with the trip. Like the way my dad scheduled the flight, I'm basically going to spend in Germany until like,
How will up with the New Orleans trip?
yeah, it'll
Okay.
overlap.
Okay.
Basically, if I change the date either way, forwards or backwards, it's going to cost us a little bit.
Yeah. No, I understand.
I'll see you in Sri Lanka, I promise.
How long are you going?
Oh, well, see, since Neil said there's not really going to be anything going on between Christmas break and the time we go,
Yeah.
we're trying to see if I can just spend a month there.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah.
You'll have a 6-hour jump on the
Jet lag? Yeah, that's what I figured.
So how about the journal / the sketchbook? Because I would like you to kind of like start over right now, and I don't want to I don't want to tell what format to use, because there are different people who use different formats. I mean, architects would like to do certain things, the planners might like to do some other things. But the thing is, I want you to in some way document. I mean, everybody will have to draw some diagrams, and take down some notes. To take down some notes from now on. I mean, what were you? I mean, you can start making some notes about what attracted you to Cap Asia, what you were interested in, or what attracted you to South Asia. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I mean, so that way. I mean, it's interesting. Chad, the guy from Berkeley, he came here for the presentation. He and Claudia, they both came here, and he did a very good presentation about his experience. He showed an image he showed an image of Taj Mahal, and he said everybody thinks if you go to India, this is where you go, and I thought, in some ways I also thought that way, and so on. And then at the end, he showed a blurry image of something that he's carrying in his hand, like a photograph that's kind of like very blurry. And he said, I mean, I don't have that clear image anymore, I mean, because I've been there, I'm still thinking, I mean, everything that I thought in the most structural, stereotypical ways is all gone right now. I mean, that's what really happened to me. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, your experience might be different. Your experience doesn't have to be the same. But I think it's good for you to kind of like keep tab of that. And we also would like to do this. We haven't done it this way. Students have had journals. I mean, I've quoted some from the journals there. But I would very much like you to begin right now. And make take some time to take down some notes, because it might be interesting for you to see after you come back what this is about. Any things that you would like to my plan was to meet only until Thanksgiving, and because you have other work, you need to finish your stuff, and I will probably talk a little bit more about society and space and more substantive stuff next time. But anything that, yeah.
Oh, you were talking about readings we perhaps will do as preparation or anything. And I talked to Hiko about, she's going to be scanning some articles for us and stuff like that. But is there anything else that I guess?
I can begin sending to you this information.
Okay.
Because I'm putting a curriculum together, a reading list. Like we will read, and as I showed, like we'll sit down under trees and discuss these readings, and we will ask how these apply. I mean, in a different way, I mapped out the larger questions. Can we participate in their processes? Like, I mean, if you find any readings related to that, I mean, there's a book called The Reflective Practitioner, and things like that. I mean, if you come across, I mean, you can also collect. I mean, these are the issues. But I will send you the reading list. I mean, it's amazing. I was telling Wes yesterday. This might be related to learning Sinhala. Sri Lanka is a I mean, as any place, it has its own good things and bad things, but it's a mine of experience, because this book, I mean, this is one of the best books that I've ever read about planning, and this is a professor from Cornell University who went to Galway, which is a river-based, yeah, it's a irrigation-based development project, and what he learned, I mean, he finally, I mean, I quoted from him from his journals, like in regard to that message about journals, and how he learned that he might not be able to apply many of the things that he learned, because if he applied, then he will be developing outside of you. And once he start breaking it down and learning from the people, how his entire project changed. And Sri Lanka has actually implemented, I mean, another critic, he's an architect who was sent to Peru in the 1970s to design public housing. You saw the public housing in Ahmedabad. he came back and said, I can't solve this slum and shanty problem. Because he said, whatever you were thinking about as a problem is not a problem, it's a solution. Because the problem is the city has not been providing enough affordable housing for these guys. They have solved the problem by building by themselves. There's no way I can build something there's no problem that I can identify to begin with. There's no way that I can build something better than what they have built because they are living in the place they want, and they have their own life there. What can I do? So then he's proposed something called a support system. The state can actually develop something called a support system where people decide what they want and state provide, which never going to happen in a full sense. However, Sri Lanka implemented a program like that in the 1980s. It's called the Million Houses Project because the guy who came up with the program wanted to win the elections. Million houses we can win, but the policy inside that, which is more important for us, is this. So there's a lot of learning that can be done there. So I will also kind of highlight some of these. Anything else? But just organizing yourself. Yeah.
Okay, so since this is supposed to comprise my thesis,
Yeah.
I know I've been writing you guys because I'm trying not to get too stressed out about it, but do you know where I can look to find good spatial data, like just maps? And I would like to get some sort of preliminary background data for where we're going to be so that I can just start doing a little bit of assessment from that point of view. So
I will put you in touch with somebody.
that would be really good.
The person who is in charge of the graduate planning program at University of Moreton.
You mentioned them.
So
yeah.
he should be able to direct you. He's our coordinator there.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
And then the other thing is just for maps, you probably can also use Google Earth, right?
There aren't that many like really high resolution images.
But online, I guess, it's hard to get maps in that part of the world. If Google is there, you can probably.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of stuff I'll just have to do while I'm there.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to get a better feeling for exactly where we're going to be so that I can, because I have to write this proposal that
Yeah.
I'm sure is going to change quite a bit once we're there.
If you want any comments from me, I can also do that. Just to
All right.
because I might be able to add some things, or give you some ideas.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll put you in touch with them. Anything else in regard to your own organization? And I mentioned this last time. We don't need to talk about this too much. You need to plan to bring one suitcase if possible, right? Mm-hmm. And from the U.S. and back to the U.S. they might allow us more. They do allow us more. But when we fly in between, like usually it's one suitcase of 23 kilos or something like that, which is so. And again, you don't need warm clothing. All the areas that we visit are going to be tropical areas, and it's going to be quite warm. And also, most of these areas export clothing to here. You can also buy some things if you're interested in. I'm not promoting consumerism here, but
I plan on taking a change of clothes and buying everything there. I just want to, because
Okay.
yeah. Because I figure that,
Places that we should go, like, if we get there. 'Cause that's like a really good point right there.
well, the other thing is like, also like, what's going to be more comfortable than what people there wear?
Yeah.
You won't stand out so much.
It's like,
And there's that.
it's like my dad was saying. It's
But
like,
not that much.
I was worried about the mosquitoes and stuff like that. And he's like, no, just buy the repellent that the locals use. Like, that will be good. You'll be good there. And the same thing with like sun lotion, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just wait till you get there.
Do we need any dress clothes or anything like that for any kind of?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, I think if you have a sort of like a good 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 clothing that you can wear once. We won't be doing a lot of formal stuff, but one formal piece is good, I think, so that if we meet somebody or if we make a presentation at a particular point, or it's good to have one. But other than that, usually it could be
So
casual.
Just something professional.
Yeah, something professional.
Okay. That's
Yeah. You need to have one. But otherwise, it's usually casual, and the casual there might be different than casual here, though, right? So that's one thing. It's they might have different expectations from different people, men, women, and various things. So might not be a bad idea to pay attention to that. And I always tell, as your dad was trying to tell. When we go there, one of the main things that you need to do is, it's part of immersing, to see what the locals do. Because the thing is, it's good. I'm not saying that you have to be a local, because you can never be a local. They will also, even if you try very hard for 2 decades, they will still know that you're not, you're from a different place. But the thing is, they've seen things, they've experienced things, they've heard things from their ancestors and grandparents and so on. So it's not a bad idea to pay attention to what they do. And and sometimes some tourists can tell you, like, you can do this. I was talking about this example last time. When we checked in at a hotel, they were saying the sea was rough and you shouldn't go in the sea. And one morning, and that was a little break that we sometimes take. We took a little break on the beach for a couple of days, and because we will be working all the time. So let's go there and sort of like spend a day or two. And the following morning, I go for breakfast. Actually, Wes was there, but I don't know whether Wes was there when he was saying this. One guy came to me and said, Nihal, we swam to that rock. There's a rock like 1 mile into the sea. Like he said, we swam to that rock. I said, okay. And I said, who did you swim with? There was this German tourist who told us that you could swim there. I said, okay. And it seems like he also had swam. Another one was a woman who couldn't come to class, who couldn't come to any discussions because she had a back problem. Like she couldn't even sit. And so on. I was just thinking like, oh, holy cow! Like I'm glad you're here. So I think you have to. You might have temptations. But I think it might be good to pay attention to what the locals do. Okay, so we'll meet next Monday.
All right.
So for